I know that your team sucks and mine is great. It's time for AFFL hate. Gonna make them pits, gonna make them mad. I'm gonna do them dirty. AFFL Week 7 preview. Autumn is here and the fall is going to focus our fantasy fun as the games get more and more important, especially with this 3-3 logjam of a league that we have. Let's get right to it. There's no time to waste. I've already wasted too much time. ISIS 3-3. Timmy doesn't have any friends. 3-3. Scott jumped out to a 9.4 point lead last night, which seems impressive when you think, hey, Gostkowski, all right. I don't know how a kicker got the 0.4, but okay, maybe he ran one. But no, as it turns out, Scott put Brandon Bolden in the lineup. Bolden was on the field for, I think, one snap, got one check down pass, picked up 4 yards, 0.4 points for that position. And oh, the irony that a man who completely jumped on my back when I picked up Lorenzo Taliaferro as a speculation play. He said, why are you picking up this guy just because Pierce is hurt? He's not going to play just because you read this online and da-da-da-da-da. And lo and behold, somebody reads online that, well, with Ridley out, Brandon Bolden should get a lot more touches, even though we all know that Shane Vereen is there and that the Patriots' backfield situation is constantly muddled. Not only does he pick up Brandon Bolden, he inserts him immediately into the starting lineup, despite the fact that it's a Thursday night game against a really stout run defense. He benches prized pickup Eddie Royal. He benches prized 3-year contract player Kendall Wright. He puts Bolden in. It doesn't work. The irony, it's so rich, like fudge. So that is 120 player minutes burned with under 10 points. What's going to happen with the rest of these guys? Well, Breeze back into the lineup, but he's going on the road, and admittedly it is a dome, but it's still, as we've seen with Breeze, anywhere away from the Mercedes-Benz Dome is a problem for him. And he is facing a surprisingly good Detroit defense, both with the pass rush and the secondary. Don't expect Breeze to have his amazing games like you would have 2-3 years ago. Going to be more in line with what he's been doing this year, which is like 14 points, 15 points. Speaking of 15 points, Geno Smith, 15.2 on the bench. You know, before the season, Scott bet me $5 that Geno Smith would outscore Colin Kaepernick this season. Scott then does not even have the courage of his convictions to start Geno Smith. Some people, you know, they're just all talk. Marshawn Lynch going up against St. Louis, I'm a little worried about this as Seattle offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell, from what I've read online, said he wants to get Lynch more touches. If they force-feed Lynch against St. Louis, that's going to be a lot of points there. Bishop Sankey, let's just move on. Torrey Smith, he had a good game last week. That means he won't have a good game this week. Marty B, the tight end, if he catches a touchdown, he'll be good, as always. If he doesn't, he won't be. Let's hope that touchdown goes to Alshon Jeffrey. For the ISIS, I had a trade that was about to happen for Calvin Johnson. I won't get into the details of who the other owner was, but I said to this guy, hey, you know, you can keep him this year, you can franchise him, you can do this, you can do that. He says, well, let me see what happens with Calvin this weekend. And I say, well, you know, if you franchise him, I don't understand what one weekend has to do with anything, but okay. Calvin misses the game, trade offer, withdrawn, shot down. I can't trade Calvin Johnson somehow. I tried all preseason to trade A.J. Green, which, as it turns out, may have been a folly. Couldn't do that. I tried to trade Lamar Miller. I tried to say, hey, guys, no Sean Moreno is not going to be a big deal. Miller has a really soft run defense schedule coming up. Couldn't trade Miller. Put Eddie Lacy on the block. Not an offer. Mark Ingram, he's going to be back as a starting running back on a pretty decent New Orleans offense. He's the goal line back. He's going to be getting in the end zone. No offers. All of these guys that I have, so much depth, I can't even get them in the starting lineup, and I'm like, hey, share the wealth, you know? I'm a Democrat. I don't need to be in the top 1% of the league. Let me help everybody else out. Nobody is making any offers. Nobody's even crafty enough to try to buy low on a guy like Eddie Lacy and say, hey, you know, look, I'll give you like fourth rounder for him. I wouldn't take that trade, but I would at least respect the offer, the effort to buy low, the craftiness. But, as hard as this sounds to believe, I lose more and more respect for you guys every week. Anyways, as for this game, the great Colin Kaepernick, the number 6 overall QB in the league, going up against Denver. Denver D is pretty good, but you gotta assume that San Francisco is going to have to put the ball in the air a little bit to keep up. Good points there. Eddie Lacy, very concerned about him, but Carolina has a bad run defense. Lacy is splitting carries with Starks, but at least Lacy gets the goal line carry, so maybe he pops into the end zone and gets me like 9 points. Lamar Miller, number 1 back in Miami, going up against a pretty bad Chicago run defense. I like that. Alshon Jeffrey, he's getting a ton of yards. Need him to get in the end zone to have a really good game, but I like that. Cobb, he's become the red zone option there, like the littlest tight end you've ever seen. So he's in the starting lineup. And that leaves one position left. And what do I do? Mark Ingram, he's back, facing a good Detroit defense. Can't play him. Joik, New Orleans defense pretty bad, but with Reggie Bush back in the action, I feel like Joik needs to get in the end zone and sit him. AJ and Calvin Johnson, sitting them down 2nd week in a row. I got to win again without 2 of the best players in the league. No problem. I can do it. So, the hedge play, the average play, the safe play here, put in Bell, put in Ingram, get the rushing yards, but Justin Hunter, I just can't resist the temptation of the lottery ticket. I know Charlie Whitehurst is going to be his quarterback, but it's going to be against Washington. I feel like Justin Hunter gets into the end zone. 15 points for Justin Hunter this week. I'm calling it. And for the ISIS, cruising to an easy win in the Shut Your Mouth grudge match. ISIS, 97. Timmy doesn't have any friends, 77. Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, 2-4. Lethbrecht, 3-3. Lethbrecht, off to a not so great start last night. -2 points. Literally would have been better off not starting their defense. By the way, would be kind of a crafty roster adjustment for next season, especially after the Week 9 roster freeze. You have a defense on the roster, you have the option to deactivate them in the starting lineup if you feel like they're going to get torched. It would have helped Gary here. He would have been tied 0-0 instead of down -2-0. But maybe that's a little too much thinking for this league. Gary this week, willing to acknowledge his mistakes, dumps Toby Gerhart. Who would have thought a white tailback playing for one of the worst teams in the league wouldn't have worked out? And welcomed back an old friend, like the Steelers, bringing back James Harrison, which is actually a sign of desperation and a signal that there are some severe problems with the roster from top to bottom. Gary brings back his old friend, Darren McFadden, puts him right on the bench. Not sure why he decided, let me grab a really old guy who's sort of the backup on a team that's not going anywhere instead of taking a chance on a young guy that maybe works out. But hey, Gary seems to know what he's doing this year, so let's not critique it too much. A little bit of a gum and glue roster here for Gary. Things are not turning out the way he intended when the season started. Justin Forsett, new trade acquisition into the lineup, going up against an extremely terrible Atlanta defense. Don't mind his chances of getting some points there. Mohamed Sanu was awesome last week. Got to figure since he's going to be putting the ball in the air this week to keep up with Indianapolis, so don't mind that. Julius Thomas into the end zone week in and week out. Justin Tucker, kicker, again, he's going up against that terrible Atlanta defense. Expect double digits out of the kicker there, which is always good. Terrence Williams, kind of feel like Dallas coming off the high of beating Seattle in Seattle. And the Giants coming off of their low loss of being shut out by the Eagles. Kind of feel like the Giants are going to roll in this one. Classic letdown game. I don't think Terrence Williams is going to do a whole heck of a lot. But maybe Mike Wallace can get in the end zone because nobody can cover him. And Andy Luck, since he had a good defense first 3 weeks of the season, they've been torched the last 2 weeks. And then going into the Lucas Oil Stadium semi-dome, don't see any reason that Luck isn't going to light it up again. And will probably win the QB battle in this one against the great Peyton Manning. Gotta think San Francisco gets to Manning a couple of times, maybe. I know he doesn't get sacked too much, but we'll see. This is a real test for that San Francisco defense. Ronnie Hillman, don't like him going up against the San Francisco defense. Ruben Randall, yeah, cruises out. The ball's going to be spread around, but I don't know if Randall is the guy that's going to get that spread at all. Hasn't done much at all this season. Bolden, do like him. Cap looks for him a lot, and like I said, San Francisco will be passing Fitz in the starting lineup over Michael Floyd. Don't like that one. Floyd is better than Fitz at this point. Palmer's back. Oakland defense is terrible. I think Floyd's going to have the points here, not Fitz. Franchise player Jordan Cameron back into the lineup going up against that terrible Jacksonville team. All right, not too bad there. Timmy with 66% of the Rams' backfield on his roster, as both of those guys on the bench, Trey Mason, Benny Cunningham. He's not going to play them against Seattle. And hey, credit to Timmy. That actually makes a lot of sense. You know, the longer you look at this matchup, the stinkier it gets. The more upsetting it's going to be that somebody's going to win this game with a below-average amount of points. And I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh, Lord. Sigmund and the Sea Monsters with the big upset. Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, 76. Lethbrecht, 71. That's right, with most of the Lethbrecht roster playing in the 1 o'clock slot, the early slot, things are going to look good for Gary early on. Timmy only has the Lions D, Dan Carpenter, and Jordan Cameron going early. So Gary, after an early afternoon of not watching NFL football because he's somewhere with his kids that involves either pumpkins or hockey or pumpkin hockey, might check his phone, might pull out the old BlackBerry and say, hey, okay, I'm doing okay here, not too bad. I get Julius Thomas going Sunday night and Terrence Williams, maybe I can get up over 80 points, not too bad. And I'm beating Timmy by like 40 right now, so hey, I can rest easy. I can sit down and not watch football the rest of the day. But then Timmy will go to work. Anquan Bolden, Ronnie Hillman, Peyton Manning, all in this Sunday night game. And if Timmy is clever enough to finally listen to me for once, Michael Floyd over Fitzgerald in the 425 game. It's going to be points, 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 points. Catching up. Finally, Anquan Bolden, fourth quarter touchdown, gives Timmy the final lead and the win. What a game. Both of these teams moved to 3-4. The unstoppable Hagak, 4-2 against the lately extremely stoppable Whitechapel Rippers, 3-3. A little bit of a flurry broke out on the email chain last night about somebody may or may not have been a dumbass, but they certainly knew who they were, although I would argue that if they truly were a dumbass, they would have no idea that you were talking about them at all. That's neither here nor there. Shane Vereen, 2 early touchdown catches, finished the night with 23 points. Larry had to be beating himself up watching that first quarter, thinking, why, God, why would I not play Shane Vereen with Stephen Ridley injured and out of the lineup? But hey, it did make a little sense on paper. Jets rushing defense, very stout. Vereen only had 43 rushing yards. It's just that blown coverage gave him the 50-yard touchdown that made it look good. But on the other side, Hagak has Chris Ivory on the bench. 107 yards, a catch, a touchdown, 18.5 points. So really, no harm done. Both guys made a mistake. It's like they were going out for a round of golf. Both flubbed one off the first tee. Hey, let's both take a mulligan. Sure, I'll play mine, you play yours. Let's go. No harm done. So, not ideal, but, it worked out in the end. Speaking of things that may or may not work out in the end, Whitechapel going with Big Ben again over Stafford. Matt Stafford, the glory boy, going up against a bad New Orleans defense. Still not enough to get in the lineup over Ben playing Monday night against Houston. Brandon Oliver, don't expect such a big game again this week over KC, but Gio, he's going to be just fine against the Colts. Julio, where's Julio been this season? One tremendously great game in Week 3, but other than that, not really carrying the load too much. Brandon Cooks into the starting lineup. Not sure I agree with that one. I know Jimmy Graham is out, so Cooks should get more targets, but we did say that Detroit defense is pretty good and it's on the road. Might play Odell Beckham? Maybe. Don't hate that one. Emmanuel Sanders, he's got to get going too if Whitechapel's going to have any hopes, because Hagak is putting up mega points week in and week out. Phillip Rivers, it's in KC. I don't think that's ever mattered to him too much. He's going to tear them up. Arian Foster going up against the Pittsburgh defense. What a dream matchup. Pittsburgh Steelers defense, you may have noticed, having a lot of troubles, and against this Houston rushing attack, where they like to stretch out Foster to the tackles, and boom, one cut, up he goes. We can't contain the edges. We can't hold the middle. It is not a good matchup all around. DeMarco Murray, best player in the league right now. Do think that the Cowboys are going to be surprised by the Giants, but we'll see. Murray should probably still get his. He's just unstoppable. Golden Tate, look for him to bounce back this week against a bad Saints defense. And Demaryius, he's going to get in the end zone. That's all he does. Mark Colston, don't like that one. A little bit of a battle here. Colston on one side, Cooks on the other, be fighting for the ball. I don't think it's going to matter in the end because there's going to be an Arian Foster first quarter touchdown Monday night that's going to put this one out of reach. Hagak, 93. The Whitechapel Rippers, 77. It's always running in Philadelphia, 4-2. That kangaroo stole my ball, 3-3. Big trade for the Runnies this week. Shady McCoy, gone. Shipped out of town. What have you done for me lately? I don't have time to wait around for you anymore. Coming back his way, franchise quarterback Russell Wilson. He is cheap. That is a nice advantage in our system. But Runny waving the white towel, giving up on this season, realizing he stinks, that his 4-0 record was a sham, even though he denied it earlier. But you can only deny the truth for so long. And he says, I'm done with this season. I'm going to take what I can get some picks, build for next season. And as for this week, not looking so good. 4 wins to start the season, 3 losses to move to the middle of the season. Wilson, he might have a good game against the Rams in St. Louis. Okay, but it's not going to be anything great. Ahmad Bradshaw, I don't know. If he gets in the end zone, okay. Cincy defense should be a little bit better. I think Andrew Luck's going to pass him up and down the field. I don't think it's going to be Bradshaw. Frank Gore, not getting the carries, and then when he does get the carries, not getting the yards anymore. And like I said, San Francisco's going to have to air it out in this one. DeAndre Hopkins, better real-life player than fantasy player at this point, even against the terrible Steelers defense. Fitzpatrick's not going to help him out any. James Jones, okay, maybe not. And as for Bry, he's improving. He's getting wins. He'll get up over 500 after this one. But he's thin. Al Morris, not getting the job done. Fred Jackson, I don't think he's going to get the job done against the Vikings defense. Better defense than people think. Zach Stacy, not as good as he was last year for those 5 games. Kerry Robinson, Ingram's back, so take some points off of him. Jennings hurt. D'Angelo Williams hurt. Bry is thin. Bry could use some depth. If there was a team that had some depth, with some fairly serviceable RB2 level type players, like, I don't know, Mark Ingram, Joique Bell, Lamar Miller, might want to, put a line in the water just to see what's out there. But far be it for me to tell Bry how to run his team, because Cam is going to run his team up and down the field against that bad Packers defense. Brandon Marshall is back. The ankle's fine. He'll get his when he faces his old Dolphins teammates. Michael Crabtree seemingly needs to get in the end zone to have a productive game. He's not piling up the yards so far, but I think he'll do that. And Antonio Brown against Houston, he'll get his because Ben will force feed him, because that's basically what he does. So Bry gets the win. Not convincing, because he's beating a bad team, but he gets the win. And that's all that counts, folks. Doesn't matter how many points you put up in this league. It matters how lucky you are with the schedule and whether you get the win week in and week out. That kangaroo stole my ball. 88. It's always runny in Philadelphia. The official end of their season, 75. Little baby Jesus, 3-3, fighting, clawing, scratching to stay alive in the playoff hunt. Ask Tanner, 3-3, surprisingly, still alive in the playoff hunt. And they made the big trade, bring in Shady McCoy. And they're thinking, hey, I'm 3-3, just like most of the rest of the league. I have a chance. I'm going to make a run here. And let me tell you, they better complete that run, because they are not set up at all for 2015. Their first, second, and fifth round picks gone. Chris, your cousin Scott can tell you, when you're not picking until the 30s, you're not going to be good the next year. You're going to end up doing something rash, like drafting a kicker in the 4th round and then trading your entire next year's draft away for a quarterback because you couldn't get a guy in the first 2 rounds. Win now, or it's going to be rough for you in 2015. A little rough for little baby Jesus this week. Yes, 12 points so far. They have the lead, but it took 2 men to do it. Edelman, not happy in his new digs, only 5.2 points. Gronk, only 6.8 points. Both of those guys dropped probably another 5 points worth of passes last night, but what's done is done, and that game is done. Aaron Rodgers, do like him against Carolina. He's going to have to throw the ball a lot. Ellington against Oakland, I do like him. I do like Deshaun against Tennessee. Sammy Watkins getting in the lineup. Not so sure about that one. Might want to put Reggie Bush going up against the Saints into the lineup. Feel like he might be getting the ball a lot. Feel like he might be doing something. Or Travis Kelce against the Chargers. Feel like he's going to get in the end zone. Correct call, keeping Trent Richardson on the bench. Incorrect call, keeping Trent Richardson on the roster. Going to be a pretty decent game for little baby Jesus. For the ass tanner, Andre Williams, hot pickup last week. Didn't do a whole heck of a lot. Is he going to get in the end zone against Dallas as the Giants upset the Cowboys? Maybe. Percy Harvin, he's done nothing. T.Y. Hilton, 28 points last week. He's going to have 4 this week. You can count on that. That would logically mean that Reggie Wayne's going to have a lot of points, since I said Luck's going to be throwing the ball up and down the field against Cincinnati, but I got to see it to believe it. Vernon Davis, banged up a lot this year. Hasn't really gotten on the field. Hasn't really gotten going. But maybe he can get into the end zone once or twice this week. And if he does, not steal the ball away from Vance McDonald, blowing a touchdown. And there's not like Ass Tanner can do anything about it. Anyways, McCoy's on a bye. Moreno's done for the season. Not sure why he hasn't cut him yet. Buffell played last night, only got 5 points. Sproles is on a bye and hurt. And LeGarrette Blount, he's not going to do anything. So this is the Ass Tanner lineup. There's nothing you can do about it. This is how it's going to be. And I tell you what, this is a key matchup for one of my preseason predictions. Little baby Jesus winning their division. Ass Tanner missing the playoffs. I say LBJ in a squeaker. Little baby Jesus, 87. Ass Tanner, 84. Animal House, 3-3. Riggins Riggs, 2-4. And at this point, we should just be asking ourselves, how is Riggins Riggs going to get boned this weekend? Well, off to a bad start. Terrific Tom Brady is back. 20.7 points last night. Probably going to win the QB battle in this one because Brian Hoyer, he's not bad, but he's not going to throw for 3 touchdowns, even as bad as Jacksonville is. Le'Veon Bell, he's going to get the carries against Houston. He hasn't been in the end zone since week 1. Look for him to get back in, get a touchdown. Jamal Charles is back. He's going to put up some points against San Diego. Ben Tate is healthy for now and playing that really bad Jacksonville defense. That's going to be some points. Roddy White's been a disappointment this year, but who else are you going to put in the lineup at this point? Fine, roll with it. Andre Johnson, he'll find a way to get 80 yards against the Steelers' defense, probably by being wide open repeatedly because that defense is terrible. Forte going up against Miami. Miami defense, not too bad, not great, but I don't think Forte is going to have one of those 25-point games. Jordy, he'll have another good game, but will he get in the end zone? Steve Smith, he's due for a downer. And Dez, I think the Giants are going to pull it out, so I think Dez is going to be held down. And all in all, there's just not too much to say here. This one's pretty straightforward. Unbelievably enough, one of the top 5 scoring teams in the league is going to drop to 2-5 on the year, and their season will be officially over. I don't know how much more time you want me to spend on this game. Animal House, 101. Riggins Riggs, 80. So there you have it, folks. That's what's going to happen, and there is not too much more to say.